has been associated with some quite famous names in terms of horses. For example, champion hurdle winner Make a Stand, Grand National winners Royal Athlete and Bindery. Can you tell us maybe what they've gone on to achieve, or maybe there are some other stories of big names you'd like to share with us?
Well, I was just actually looking at my Cheltenham parade, because we have parades at some of the big race meetings. You might have seen them. And at Aintree and Cheltenham, for example, the crowds like to see the well-known names that probably have taken part at Cheltenham. But we also, and the same at Aintree, but we try to, at other race courses, perhaps parade horses that have been successful in a smaller way at smaller tracks, that the then public, the racing public in that area can associate with these horses. So I'm looking at the Cheltenham list. So I've got Anacotti, Conagry, Pinot de Ray, Sapphire de Race, Mad Place, Thomas Crapper, Wayward Prince, Zarkandar. Good list.
Yes.
And I've got another one in Manila Rebellion, which you won't have heard of, because he was trained by Nicky Henderson. He only ran 5 times, and he was quite expensive, but he was useless. I mean, honestly, he didn't trouble the judge. And Henrietta Knight recommended him to a friend of mine, actually, to take into the show ring, and he won at Horse of the Year show, and he also won our big championship at Aintree. And he's quite beautiful, and he was a useless racehorse, but he trots around the ring and he says, "Look at me," all the way around the ring. So he's a really good story of a very moderate racehorse being an exceptional show horse, because he's got that temperament and the showmanship, which of course isn't probably required on a racecourse, particularly being a showman, but certainly it is in the show ring. And so he's, something like that's he's done incredibly well. And the others, I'm looking, Anacotti's done well in the show ring, Conagry is doing well in the show ring and doing some dressage. And the others are doing bits and pieces, a bit of eventing, because of course they do really well eventing, a lot of these horses. So they're all doing something to suit what the time the owners have got for them. If you've got a job or you work in a yard and you've got a horse, then perhaps you can't put in enough practice to be going to top shows, for example, but you can win rosettes in ROR for doing, just taking part in dressage and that sort of thing.
Now, Phil, I know you rehomed one of your horses last year. How did you go about that?
Yeah, I did. I was lucky, actually, that our trainer knew someone nearby up on Epsom Downs that wanted a horse to do some eventing. And fortunately, he was perfect for that. He wasn't a great fast jumper, as he was a bit too careful, but obviously that's perfect for eventing, and he had a lovely temperament, so he was easy to transition over. But yeah, I'm aware some people might not have those kind of options available to them, and obviously owners that have got a horse that's retiring might not know where to start in terms of finding a new horse. So I wanted to ask you, Di, if sort of an owner came to you for support, do they come to you for support first, and what's the typical process that they have to follow between retiring their horse and it being rehomed? And does it cost them a lot, or, how do they go about it?
A very interesting question. I think most of the time the owners will discuss it with the trainers, and it's more likely that the trainers take the lead on this. And I actually did a bit of a poll and rang up a few trainers last winter. And so many of the trainers have somebody in their yard that takes the responsibility of finding homes to help the owner. So it usually works that way, that the trainers take a bit of responsibility to help the owners. We have a helpline for any owners and trainers that want some advice. We can send somebody out to assess a horse if they would like. There are retrainers around that we have a list on our website that can do some retraining, and that will most of the time come at a cost to the owner. But I do find most of them do have lists of people at some yards wanting horses when they finish their racing days, because The popularity of the thoroughbreds has risen so rapidly over the last particularly 2 or 3 years, and particularly in lockdown, would you believe? Similar to dogs. There was a huge increase wanting thoroughbreds, and we just hope that they are happily rehomed and weren't taken on without thought during that period. And it seems to me that at the moment it's very settled, and we're seeing very few at the moment that are needing our charitable sort of vulnerable horse arm. So that's very good news at the moment.
Thank you, Di. Look, that's really fascinating stuff, a real insight. Don't want to take up much more of your time. I know you're a busy lady, but one final question. If you had 3 New Year's wishes to improve racing in this country, what would they be?
I couldn't really do this one because you read so much in the Racing Post about all the things we worry about, prize money and all that sort of thing. And I thought, well, I'm not going down that line. And with my international hat on, so we have an international arm which was helped by Godolphin to set up 5 years ago to help other countries. So we've been quite a sort of leader in aftercare in other countries, and countries now like Japan and other places have really good rehoming operations because, as you can imagine, a lot of horses leave the country now. So we wanted to reassure owners in this country that there was hopefully a life for them when their racing days were over. And with that hat on, I was thinking, we do look after our horses well in this country. We look after the people that look after them and are involved with them through racing welfare, with the injured jockeys, our racing schools. We are actually really good in this country in so many ways, and we have great racing. So I think all that could be helped even more if there was more money available. So that would be my only wish. But just really to say, I think we do pretty well in this country in those areas.
That's lovely to hear. I tell you what, Phil and I, we love having positive guests on Inside the Rails, and we've certainly got one in you. So, look, thank you for being positive. Thank you for the insight into the ROR, and thank you for your time, and the very best of luck with ROR, and of course, raising money for the ROR. So thank you so much, Di. It's been fascinating.
Thank you so much.
Well, I had high hopes, Phil, that Di would be a good guest, and we weren't disappointed, were we? Really fascinating stuff. The thing that I took out of that was 14 different disciplines that these ex-racehorses go on to participate in. Really, I didn't realise there were so many.
No, I didn't either. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Very interesting, and real insight into the process that we follow once our horses retire. And also, yeah, very positive that we're actually doing quite a good job with that kind of stuff. Before we close out, let me remind our listeners we are on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @InsideTheRails. Please follow us on there if you are on Twitter, and we really do appreciate you listening to us. You can also support us by following us on your podcast platform to get new shows automatically, and by giving us some positive reviews and ratings. I understand Spotify are now operating a rating system in the same way that Apple Podcasts do. So if you listen to us there, please give us a rating, and obviously wherever you listen to us, please tell your friends about us so that we can grow our listeners. We really do appreciate everybody that takes the time to listen to us. And if you've got any questions, please message us through Twitter or email us at the addresses on the show notes.
Well, that just leaves me to thank co-host Phil Boyle from BG Racing, our special guest Di Arbuthnot from Retraining of Racehorses, producer Callum Ronan from Callum Ronan Creative, and you, the listeners. Well, winter is well and truly here. The jump season is really cranking up a gear with, can you believe it, less than 10 weeks to the Cheltenham Festival. This is Simon Double from Solario Racing, wishing you the best of racing in the coming weeks and a happy and healthy new year. Goodbye.